The Vorthak Empire had never lost a war. For 1,000 years, they had moved across the galaxy like a storm. They had destroyed 12 species. They had burned 100 worlds. They had never asked for peace, and they had never offered mercy. When their scouts found Earth, a small blue planet with a yellow sun, the Emperor smiled. Another easy victory. The attack came without warning. One moment, the sky over every major city was blue and quiet. The next moment, it was filled with alien ships. Big ships. Dark ships. Ships that blocked out the sun. They did not send messages. They did not demand surrender. They simply began to bomb. But they did not bomb military targets. They did not bomb army bases or weapon factories or command centers. They bombed hospitals, schools, and homes. They bombed places where children played and old people slept and families ate dinner together. They wanted to break the human spirit. They wanted to show mercy was dead. In 1 hour, 7 million humans died. 7 million voices, silenced forever. Children who would never grow up. Parents who would never hold their babies again. Grandparents who would never tell their stories. All gone. The streets ran red. The buildings fell. The smoke rose so high that it blocked the stars. The survivors crawled out of the rubble. Mothers held dead children. Fathers dug through broken concrete looking for wives. Brothers and sisters called each other's names into the dust. The sky was still dark with smoke. The alien ships were gone. They had done their work and left. But the survivors did not scream. They did not cry. They did not fall to their knees and beg the universe for help. They stood up. They wiped the blood from their faces. They looked at the smoking sky with eyes that were not broken. They were angry. They were sad. But more than that, they were waiting. Because they knew Earth would answer. 3 days later, the leaders of every nation stood together in front of a single camera. They stood on a stage made of stone. Behind them was a wall covered in the names of the 7 million dead. The leaders were old and young, men and women, from places that had once been enemies. Now they stood shoulder to shoulder. They did not smile. They did not wave. They simply looked into the camera and spoke. They did not give a long speech. They did not declare war. They did not threaten or shout or promise revenge. They simply read one sentence. The sentence was written on a piece of stone in front of them. The words had been carved with a simple tool, and the grooves were still wet with red paint. Paint that looked like blood. No alien shall stand on Earth's soil again. And no alien who raised a hand against us shall stand anywhere, ever again. The sentence was short. The sentence was simple. The sentence was absolute. The broadcast spread across the galaxy. Every alien species saw it. Every alien leader heard it. And most of them laughed. The humans were weak. They had no empire. They had no super weapons. They had no massive fleet. They were just a single species from a single planet, still fighting among themselves until yesterday. What could they possibly do? The Vorthak Emperor laughed the loudest. He called the human sentence a joke. He said humans were like insects, loud for a moment and then crushed. He ordered another attack, bigger this time. He would finish what he started. But some aliens did not laugh. They watched the human leaders on the screen. They saw their eyes. They saw the way they stood, straight and still, like trees that had survived a fire. They saw the wall of names behind them. They saw the red paint on the stone. And they felt something cold run down their spines. Because they understood something the Vorthak Emperor did not. Humans were not insects. Insects forgot. Insects ran. Insects did not carve names into stone and promise to remember forever. But humans did. The broadcast ended. The leaders walked off the stage. The camera turned off. The world was quiet. But in every city, in every village, in every home that still stood, people began to move. Not in panic. Not in fear. With purpose. They picked up tools. They fixed what was broken. They buried their dead. They said goodbye. And they waited. Because they knew the sentence was not just words. It was a promise. And humans always kept their promises. The galaxy laughed. The galaxy would learn. The Vorthak Empire expected a counterattack. That was how war worked. You attacked. The enemy attacked back. Ships against ships. Fleets against fleets. The Vorthak had done this 100 times. They knew the pattern. They moved their defenses. They positioned their fleets. They waited for human warships to appear in their space. But human warships never came. The Vorthak waited a week. Then a month. Then 2 months. Nothing. No human ships crossed into their territory. No bombs fell on their worlds. No soldiers landed on their soil. The Emperor laughed again. The humans were cowards. They had talked big, but they could not back up their words. Then the first soldier disappeared. His name was Vex, a junior officer who had bombed a hospital on Earth. He had bragged about it to his friends. He had shown them pictures. He was proud of what he had done. One night, he went to sleep in his own bed, in his own house, in a guarded military base. In the morning, he was gone. His bed was empty. His clothes were folded. His weapons were on the table. No signs of a fight. No broken locks. No alarms. Just an empty chair at breakfast. The Vorthak searched for him. They found nothing. A week later, another soldier disappeared. Then another. Then 5 more. Then 20. All of them had been part of the attack on Earth. All of them had pulled triggers. All of them had laughed at human suffering. Now they were gone. Vanished like smoke. The Vorthak Empire offered rewards. Big rewards. Enough money to buy a planet. But no one came forward. No one had seen anything. No one knew anything. The soldiers were simply there one day and gone the next. The Empire increased security. They put guards on every soldier's door. They installed cameras in every hallway. They moved the remaining soldiers to deep bunkers, underground, behind metal walls and locked doors. It did not matter. The soldiers kept disappearing. The cameras showed nothing. The guards heard nothing. The bunkers stayed locked from the inside. But every morning, another bed was empty. Another chair was cold. Another soldier was gone. The Vorthak were afraid now. Not of a battle. Not of a war. Of ghosts. Hunters who moved through walls. Shadows that left no trace. They did not know who was doing this or how. They only knew that the humans had promised that no alien who raised a hand against them would stand anywhere, ever again. And someone was keeping that promise. The humans called them the Reckoning. They were not soldiers. They were hunters. Earth had always been a planet of predators. Humans had spent millions of years learning to track, to trap, and to kill things bigger and stronger than themselves. They had forgotten those skills in modern times. They had become soft. They had become peaceful. But the massacre reminded them. The Reckoning was made of the best. Former soldiers. Former police. Former hunters who had tracked animals through deep forests. They did not wear uniforms. They did not carry flags. They did not announce themselves. They simply moved through alien space like ghosts, using human technology that was small and quiet and impossible to detect. They did not go after the leaders. They did not go after the generals. They went after the soldiers. The ones who had actually killed. The ones who had laughed. The ones who had pulled the triggers. Because the leaders gave the orders, but the soldiers did the work. And the Reckoning wanted every single one of them to understand that their actions had consequences. One by one, the soldiers disappeared. From their homes. From their ships. From guarded bases. From deep bunkers. No place was safe. No lock was strong enough. No guard was watchful enough. The Reckoning always found them. And when they found them, they did not kill quickly. They took their time. They sat with the soldier and showed them pictures of the dead. The children. The parents. The grandparents. They made the soldier look at every face. Then they asked one question. Do you remember? Some soldiers cried. Some begged. Some tried to fight. It did not matter. The end was always the same. And when it was over, the Reckoning left a single mark on the wall. The number 7 million, written in the soldier's own blood. The Vorthak Empire stopped laughing. The galaxy stopped laughing. Because they finally understood. The humans were not building walls to hide behind. They were building teeth. And those teeth were very, very sharp. After 6 months, the work was done. Every Vorthak soldier who had taken part in the attack on Earth was dead. Not captured. Not imprisoned. Not put on trial. Dead. The Reckoning had been thorough. They had crossed systems. They had broken into bunkers. They had found soldiers hiding in distant colonies, far from the Empire's core worlds. None of them escaped. The Vorthak Empire was shocked. They had lost wars before, but never like this. They had lost soldiers in battle, but never one by one, in the night, from their own beds. The remaining soldiers lived in fear. They slept with lights on. They checked their locks 100 times. Some of them ran away, deserting the Empire, hoping to hide in neutral space. It did not matter. The Reckoning found them too. When the last soldier was gone, the galaxy expected Earth to declare victory. To celebrate. To demand surrender. But Earth did none of those things. Because Earth was not finished. The one sentence spread beyond the Vorthak Empire. It became something new. Not a threat. Not a promise. A law. Not a human law, written by human leaders for human people. A law of the universe. A law that every species, every empire, every world now understood. If any alien species harmed a human, that species would lose its right to stand. Not just on Earth. Anywhere. In their own homes. On their own ships. In their own systems. Human hunters would find them. Human ships would follow them. Human justice would reach them. No matter how far they ran. No matter how long they hid. The galaxy watched in disbelief. The humans had no empire. They controlled only one small planet. They had no super weapons, no giant fleets, no Death Stars. They could not conquer a single system, let alone the galaxy. But they had something worse. Something the old empires had forgotten long ago. They had patience. A human could wait for years, decades, a lifetime, to finish a hunt. They did not get bored. They did not give up. They simply waited. They had memory. A human never forgot a wrong done to them or to their people. They passed stories down from parents to children, from children to grandchildren. A crime could be 1,000 years old, and a human would still remember. And they had no mercy. Not when it came to protecting their own. Not when it came to keeping their promises. The reckoning had shown the galaxy what mercy looked like. It looked like a number written in blood on a wall. A small alien trader, a creature from a neutral world, once asked a human diplomat a question. The trader had seen the news. He had heard the stories. He was afraid, but he was also curious. "How far will you go?" he asked. The human diplomat was a woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had lost her sister in the massacre. She had joined the reckoning for a time, but now she worked in diplomacy. She smiled at the trader. It was not a warm smile. It was not a cruel smile. It was a simple, honest smile. "How far do we need to go?" she said. The trader did not ask any more questions. Other alien species began to change their behavior. It happened slowly at first, then faster. Species that had raided human colonies stopped raiding. Species that had enslaved human travelers stopped enslaving. Species that had laughed at the one sentence stopped laughing. Because the one sentence had teeth. And those teeth had blood on them. The galaxy did not love humans. The galaxy did not fear humans in the old way, the way of empires and armies. But the galaxy respected humans. And respect, the humans had learned long ago, was better than love. Love could be broken. Respect was earned in blood. The Vorthak Emperor sat alone in his palace. He had no more soldiers to send. No more generals to command. His empire was broken, not by human weapons, but by human patience. He looked out his window at the stars and wondered if the reckoning was coming for him next. He never found out. He died of old age, alone and forgotten, before anyone could answer. But the law lived on. No alien shall stand who raises a hand against humanity. The words were carved into stone on Earth. They were carved into memory across the galaxy. And they would never be forgotten. Vaughn the Cruel was not afraid. He had never been afraid. He had killed 12 species. He had burned 100 worlds. He had watched entire planets die and felt nothing. Fear was for the weak. And Vaughn the Cruel was not weak. Or so he told himself. When he heard that every soldier from the Earth attack was dead, he felt a flash of anger. Not fear. Anger. How dared the humans fight back? How dared they touch his soldiers? He would teach them. He would make them suffer. He gathered his remaining fleet. 10,000 ships. Still powerful. Still deadly. He would send them to Earth. He would burn the planet to ash. He would leave nothing but floating rock and silence. Let the humans hunt his soldiers now. Soldiers could be replaced. Planets could not. But before he could give the order, his own generals came to see him. They stood in a line before his throne. Their faces were gray. Their hands were shaking. They were afraid. Vaughn could smell it on them. The lead general stepped forward. His name was Thrax. He had served Vaughn for 50 years. He had never questioned an order. But now he spoke. "Emperor," Thrax said, his voice low. "Do not do this." Vaughn stared at him. "You dare tell me what to do?" Thrax did not look away. "Emperor, if we attack again, the humans will not stop at soldiers. They will come for us. For our families. For every Vorthak in the galaxy. We have seen what they do. They do not forget. They do not forgive. Please. Stop." Vaughn laughed. A loud, ugly laugh that echoed off the walls. "You are afraid of insects. Of a species that cannot even leave their own system without help. Pathetic." He stood up from his throne. His voice became hard. "I am the Emperor. I have killed species before. I will kill another. The fleet attacks at dawn. That is my final word. The generals left. Their faces were empty. Their hearts were heavy. They knew what would happen next. They had seen the human hunters at work. They had seen the empty beds and the blood on the walls. They did not want that for themselves or their children. But the Emperor had spoken, and they had no choice but to obey. The fleet gathered near the edge of Vorthak space. 10,000 ships. Enough to destroy 100 worlds. They prepared to jump to Earth. The countdown began. 10 minutes. 5 minutes. 1 minute. Then the first explosion came. A ship at the front of the fleet tore apart. Then another. Then 10 more. The reckoning had been waiting. They had hidden in the dark space between stars, small ships that did not appear on any scanner. They struck fast and vanished faster. Half the fleet was destroyed before the first hour passed. The remaining ships stopped. Their commanders huddled together, trying to decide what to do. Then each commander received a personal message. The messages came from nowhere. No sender. No origin. Just a file that appeared on their screens. Inside the file was a photograph. A photograph of their own children, sleeping in their own beds, taken that morning, from inside their own homes. No explanation. No threat. Just a photograph. And on the back of each photograph, written in simple numbers, was the same number. 7 million. The message was clear. You killed our children. We can kill yours. But we chose not to. Yet, the commanders did not need to discuss. They did not need to vote. One by one, they turned their ships around and flew home. They did not look back. They did not ask permission. They simply left. Vaughn the Cruel waited in his palace for news of the attack. He waited an hour, then a day, then a week. No news came. Finally, a single messenger arrived. The messenger told him about the destroyed ships, the photographs, the commanders who had fled. Vaughn screamed. He threw his throne against the wall. He broke the windows. He shouted at the empty room. But no one came. No generals. No soldiers. No guards. They had all left. They had gone home to protect their families. They had chosen their children over their emperor. Vaughn found himself alone. The palace was silent. The halls were empty. The only sound was his own breathing. He walked to his desk. On it was a single photograph. He picked it up. It was his own face, sleeping, taken from the foot of his bed the night before. He stared at the photograph for a long time. His hands shook. His mouth opened, but no words came. He finally understood. The humans could have killed him. They had been in his room. They had stood over his bed. They had seen him sleep. They could have ended his life with a single move. But they chose not to. They wanted him to live. To sit alone in his empty palace. To think about what he had done. To remember the 7 million dead. To carry that weight until he died. Vaughn the Cruel never ordered another attack. He never left his palace again. He sat on his broken throne, staring at the wall, day after day, year after year. No one visited. No one spoke to him. No one remembered he existed. He died of old age, alone and forgotten, in a palace full of dust and silence. And the galaxy moved on. But no one ever forgot the number 7 million. Or what it meant. Or how far humans would go to keep a promise. 50 years passed. The children who survived the massacre became adults. The adults became old. The old passed away, carrying their memories to the grave. But the memory of the massacre did not die. It was carved into stone. It was written in books. It was spoken in schools. It would never be forgotten. Earth had not become an empire. Humans had not conquered anyone. They had not built weapons of mass destruction. They had not taken a single world or enslaved a single alien. They had simply kept their promise. That was all. And that was enough. No alien who harmed a human ever stood again. Not in battle. Not in peace. Not anywhere. The reckoning became a legend. A ghost story. Alien parents told their children, be kind to humans. Be gentle with humans. Be careful around humans. Because if you hurt them, the hunters will find you. No matter where you hide. No matter how long you run. They will find you. The legend grew. Some aliens believed the reckoning were spirits. Some believed they were machines. Some believed they were death itself wearing human faces. But the truth was simpler. The reckoning were just people. People who had lost someone. People who had promised to remember. People who kept their word. But something else happened too. Something the humans had not expected. Aliens began to visit Earth. Not as invaders. Not as conquerors. As guests. They came in small ships and large ships. They came from nearby systems and from far away. They came to trade, to learn, to share stories. They walked on human soil without fear, because they had not raised a hand against humanity. And they never would. The streets of Earth's cities filled with aliens. Strange creatures with many legs. Strange creatures with blue skin. Strange creatures who spoke in songs and walked in silence. They bought food from human markets. They visited human museums. They sat in human parks and watched the sun go down. And the humans welcomed them. Not because they had to. Because they wanted to. The one sentence had changed everything. Not because humans became the strongest. Not because humans became the richest. Not because humans became the most feared. Because humans became the most remembered. Every alien in the galaxy knew the story of the massacre. Every alien knew the number 7 million. Every alien knew the promise written in stone and blood. And knowing that promise, they made a choice. Some chose to stay away. Some chose to be enemies. But most chose to be friends. Because being a friend of humanity meant safety. It meant respect. It meant that if anyone hurt you, the humans would remember. And the humans would help. The humans always helped those who stood with them. In a small classroom on Earth, a young human child sat at her desk. Her name was Myra. She was 8 years old. She had been born long after the massacre, but she knew the story by heart. Every child knew the story. It was the first thing they learned in school. The teacher pointed to a large map on the wall. The map showed the galaxy. Thousands of stars. Hundreds of species. Dozens of empires. Earth was a small dot near one edge. This is our home, the teacher said. And these are our neighbors. She pointed to the different colored regions on the map. They used to fear us. Now they respect us. Because we taught them one simple truth. Myra raised her hand. The teacher nodded. What truth? Myra asked. The teacher smiled. It was a warm smile, but there was something old and sad behind it. Something that remembered. That 7 million lives matter, the teacher said. And we will never let the universe forget it. Myra looked at the map. She looked at all the stars and all the species and all the empires. She tried to imagine 7 million people. She could not. It was too many. But she understood the feeling. The feeling of loss. The feeling of anger. The feeling of promise. Outside the window, the sky was blue. Ships came and went, leaving white lines across the sky. Aliens walked the streets below, laughing and talking with humans. Children played in the parks. Old people sat on benches and watched the clouds. The massacre was not forgotten. The stones still stood. The names were still carved. The families still visited. But it was no longer the end of the story. It was the beginning of a promise written in stone and blood, a promise that changed everything. No alien shall stand who raises a hand against humanity, and every alien who stands with us is welcome. That was the law, that was the truth, and the galaxy never forgot. Not the massacre, not the promise, not the number, never.